Good morning, girlfriends. How are you? I am so thrilled to be talking with Marilise, and she is coming to us from South Africa. And she has this beautiful resource that we're going to walk through today called Roar for More. And ladies, if you are curious about what this is about, stick with us because we're going to talk a little bit about it. But first, I just want to say hello to Marilise. And Marilise, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do and who you are and how you got to where you are today.
Hi, Karen, and thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the gift of being included in your beautiful magazine. I think that was such an honor, and shout out to Debbie, who's sort of orchestrated that with you. I think that's really been a wonderful invitation. And yeah, so I'm Marilise de Villiers, and I live in South Africa now. I have moved back to South Africa 3 years ago. So originally South African, spent 18 years in the UK, in London, England. And so really, that's been a journey, right? And so what was originally intended to be a 2-year life experience, secondment to the UK, ended up being an 18-year-long chapter where, my husband and I created a beautiful life. We had 2 beautiful boys, and decided back in 2022 that we actually want to come back to South Africa. And I've had a particularly sort of I think I would say very transformational 10 years, in the sense that I was in a corporate role for 16 years where it very much came to a halt, where there was a big moment of I've had enough is enough. And, realizing that I was not going to fit into this square peg round hole situation. So I really tried so hard to fit in, to climb the corporate ladder, being successful on paper, but really also feeling very empty inside. And when I stepped away, and this was mainly because of a bully in the workplace. So I was subjected to workplace bullying, and that was actually why I wrote it Roar, the first book, back in 2019, because I wanted to raise, and I'll show you quickly the book.
Yes.
So I wanted to raise awareness of workplace bullying and sort of shine a spotlight on this kind of silent epidemic. And I didn't think I would ever go and write a second book, but I'm about to publish MOAR, which is the second book, and it's not actually this is not in print yet. It's just a cover that I've created just to show people what it's going to look like.
Doesn't that make you feel good, though, to be able to have that voice like that and to share with other women?
Honestly, and today is particularly significant because I just signed off, like half an hour ago, I signed off the final paperback to go to the printers, to be uploaded onto Amazon. So it is a very, very, thank you. It's a very big moment for me today. And so the second book is more holistic. It's more holistic about work well-being, and it's about your hero's journey. And it's very much about, we're all on a hero's journey, and we all spend so much of our life working. So we might as well make it magic. And it starts with you. So we talk about the inside out transformation. So Roar for More are actually from my 2 books. And it's really the Roar for More hero's journey. So the Roar methodology, which we'll dive into a little bit more in this conversation, but really in our quest for more, we have to roar every step of the way. So we've got to find our roar every step of the way. And that's essentially, in a nutshell, what it is all about. So capturing sort of the last 10 years of my life and my journey and sharing it with my audience.
Yeah, Marilise, there's so much, what you said, because there's so many, I kept wanting to go, yes, I can relate, because there's so many pieces in our lives that we share as women. Whether you were corporate or entrepreneur, maybe a stay-at-home mom, a lot of those experiences are the same. And I was going through the exercise earlier this morning, and I just thought, gosh, there's so many situations in your format in that we'll walk through that can relate to different parts of our lives. And what if we could take just one simple thing and apply it in all these different areas? And I think that's what I personally got out of it. I thought, wow, this is really easy. I can really apply this. And how many women really need to step into their own and have a voice?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and step into that power, because we're so often taught that, oh no, we just have to be quiet. We just have to let that person do that, or whatever, rather than trying. But sometimes communication can get so confusing. And so
Yeah.
what's a way that we can productively and positively have a voice?
I think for me, the big shift came when I realized how much I was trying to please everybody every day. It was like this whole, like, I was this people pleaser. I was, like, I sometimes refer to myself as a recovering perfectionist, so it's kind of all the P's around, what am I trying to prove, what am I trying to perfect, what am I trying to protect, who am I trying to please, and it's all coming from that really kind of place of we just do not feel enough, and that sort of used to be my narrative around, never enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not thin enough, fill in the blank. And I think that's what I think a lot of women really grapple with. And I think this whole conversation about self-worth and you are worthy and, having compassion and self-love is such an important conversation. And how do we balance that? Because the whole MOAR framework paradox is about, we are meant for more. We are, as entrepreneurs, as corporate executives, as mothers, we have a desire for more. And it's important that we strive and that we go for that more. And at the same time, know that we are already more than enough. And I think for me, that's the lesson that I'm learning, is that I can go for absolutely everything. I can hustle and work harder. And if I don't believe in myself, if I don't believe that I'm worthy, that I'm good enough, none of this is going to mean anything. And so, yes, burnout is going to happen. And so that's why the title of MOAR is actually how to play to win without burning out, because it is about winning at the end of the day. We all want to win at something, but we also want to protect our well-being. We want to do it in a meaningful way, in a way that's fun, that's enjoyable. And that's really the curriculum that I'm sharing, and finding a new playbook, because the old me was kind of really like hard hitting, pushing. And now it's like, okay, but maybe there's an easier way. There's a more fulfilling way.
Yeah.
And that's I'm working towards,
Yeah, and I love that. I love that there is hope out there. So ladies, this is what I'm gathering from a lot of this conversation is, hope for just an easy breezy, light way to kind of get through things, recognizing that, we are more. I love that. And recognizing, but we can still be striving for those other things in a way that's not, oh, I have to fight for this kind of attitude, or overwhelmed, or they have to hustle, as with so many women entrepreneurs, there's so much to do, there's so much to accomplish, and so then we get in this hustle culture in all of our life. And so what if there was a little bit easier way? I love that is that we can walk through. So let's walk through this a little bit. So let's walk through the blueprint a little bit. Why don't you explain?
So the blueprint really is kind of how I strive to live my best life every day. And so it's really being aligned to my purpose. So on purpose, in my power. And so really standing in my power, and then having the courage to speak my truth. So the courage to roar. And then roar is a 4-step process for having courageous conversations. And I think that for me, and I think you've alluded to the 4 steps. So ROAR, it actually stands for recognize, observe, assert, and redirect. And the beauty of that is it applies 2 ways. It applies with the conversation you're having with yourself, catching that negative thought or that old story or that limiting belief, and really catching it, staying with it. So recognize and observe is about actually staying with it. Don't kind of push it away, or I don't want to think about it, or it's too hard, or, just stay with it, stay present with it. And that's what the recognize and observe is kind of regulating yourself around it, allowing yourself to feel it, and then to reframe that conversation with yourself. So then have an assertive conversation to say, actually, you know what, this is not true. And this is the new narrative. This is the new story. And then moving forwards with a more empowered narrative. So it applies to how you speak to yourself. And it also applies then to, and initially when I created this process, it was to navigate conversations with bullies, and specifically people in the workplace who are bullying other people. So the original format of ROAR was designed to have the courageous conversation with someone else. So it only really evolved after I published a book into, okay, actually it's a conversation with myself as well. So that was a really gift that came from it.
Yeah,
but so the same thing apply. Yeah.
Excuse me. So I want to just pause for a moment, because before we go on, I would love to let's show an example, maybe an example of a life situation, something that you have to have maybe an internal conversation with yourself about. Is there something that you can think of that you could kind of just take us through the little steps there?
Yeah. So there are so many conversations, but I think let me go into sort of the conversation I'm having the most with myself at the moment. So I'll be vulnerable here with you. But it's really this idea that whenever I do something big, like publishing a book, which is 2 weeks away, I have this compulsion to self-sabotage, to make myself small, to really convince myself that this is not good enough. Ultimately, I am not good enough, So I think I still have layers and layers and layers to shave away of this kind of old story, which is really rooted in trauma, childhood trauma, and I won't necessarily go into that detail right now, but recognizing where it's from. So for me, the recognize starts with recognizing when you're having this very deeply rooted pattern, an inherited pattern. And so I've done a lot of work over the last few years. So I also understand where that narrative is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So the self-awareness is the start. It starts with that self-awareness and that recognition that you're actually having that pattern and where it actually is rooted from. Mm-hmm. But it could be as simple as just, you just getting into the habit of recognizing your thoughts, just starting recognizing your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So the recognize and observe for me. So observing for me is very much around really asking myself, how do I know this is true? And so absolutely huge on my messaging for this book is no more playing small. Own your magic. Your message matters. And I wrote it in my newsletter for other people. That's the strap line. And I read it 3 weeks ago, and I was just like, that message is for me. That message is for me first.
Isn't that funny? So much of what we do is the messages that we're teaching and we're experiencing. Yeah. So many of them are directly for us and for our own healing.
And so the assert for me at the moment is saying that to myself. No more playing small. Own your magic. Your message matters. And that's how I'm reframing that conversation. And I'm showing up. I'm putting myself out there. It's messy. It's imperfect. It's progress over perfection. I won't have everything ready that I wanted to have ready for the book launch. And that's okay, because it's only really the book launch. There is so much more that's going to happen after that. And it's the years and the unfolding and that sort of trust that, we are exactly where we're supposed to be. And in the end, it all works out, so I had to have a really hard conversation with myself, and I'm buckling a lot at the moment. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of pressure. There's not enough hours in the day. And so I'm really living my curriculum. And so the 3 words that I've created around this more sort of fun, easy way of being is present, peaceful, and powerful.
Oh, I love
So
that.
in my daily workings, I keep coming back, and I keep coming back to ground myself in I'm present, I'm peaceful, I'm powerful. And so the assert and the redirect of the 4-step ROAR process is really how you now step into that new identity. And it's not just a once-off, it's an ongoing, you've got to stick with it, you've got to be with it, you've got to really, really start embodying it. And it takes years in some cases, especially if it's so deeply rooted in that sort of childhood trauma.
Yes. One of the things that I think that I'm hanging on to is, as you walk through an exercise like this, and you're not just saying it, walking through it, but if you also write it, and then you repeat it back to yourself. So like your words, saying those back to yourself. What if you had a little reminder, every day at noon or something, you're reminding yourself and sending yourself some kind of reminder or something to say those words, to just, as you're talking about this, is something that came up for me is doubting my own words. Sometimes I doubt my decision making. And I thought, gosh, if I had a couple words, because as you walk through that process, like you said, you're reframing it, and that peaceful, walking into something peaceful, owning my own decisions, those kind of things. I thought, oh, what if I just had those words and just to remind myself, because then it almost feels like, as you're talking through it, that you're snipping the emotion away from the thought.
100%. And I think that is so important, because yes, it's important to feel all the feels, and I'm a big advocate of feeling it, and that's what the observation step is all about, is sitting with it and allowing it. But it's also allowing it almost like imagining the thought as a cloud sort of passing, right? But there's also a moment where you've just got to have a little tough love with yourself and just say, stop it. Stop it, because you can get so into the emotion, you can get so like into that how it feels, that it can become a little bit paralyzing as well. So I love that you say that, because I think there's such a balance, and that discernment is incredibly important.
Yeah. And then it feels like you walked into with that new reframe, and the words with the peaceful, then that's what you're feeling.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. And I think what you're saying about the reminder is important. So I'm a certified high performance coach, and one of the very first things that Brendan Bouchard, it's his high performance academy. So he's the coach that certify us, and we have to recertify every couple of years. But he taught us to add sort of alarms on our phones. So one of the very first alarms I added to my phone was actually the 3 words. So I had 3 words, 3 different words. It was calm, courageous, and caring was my first 3 words. So it sort of evolved. But I had those 3 words in my phone as an alarm, same time every day, to remind myself. And so it's a really good, I think it's a good opportunity for everybody here. If you have that little grounding mantra, and so whatever those 3 words are for you, put it in your phone, have that alarm go off same time every day, and it really becomes sort of conditioned, and the embodiment becomes sort of second nature after a while.
Yeah, I love this. And so we are really blessed to have some ladies. We are on a live stream as we're recording, to have ladies commenting. And so I would love to hear from Jenny, Debbie, Shannon, Nicole, and some of the other ladies there. What's maybe one word that comes to your mind that you would want to feel? I mean, when you said peaceful, I know that's one of my words, and present. And because that's kind of where I'm at. I've got so much. Sometimes when you've got a very full life, you got all these things. Sometimes that's all you can do is to be present, and to be in that moment to get things done, because otherwise it's so overwhelming. And so for me, that really struck a chord with me. And I just love peaceful. I love light and breezy. Light and breezy is kind of my little phrase. So let's make it light.
I love that. Light and breezy. Debbie Debbie says this a lot. She's like always about the power of words, and I'm very like the energy around the words that you use, and light and breezy feels so appropriate for Karen. It feels so beautiful.
It reminds me of the ocean breeze. I love the beach. When I'm at the beach, it is calming. It's wonderful, and I feel like I'm in my power. I'm in my space. I'm playful. It's all these good things. Yes, and so so if the ladies I'd love to hear maybe a word that they would love to be feeling. Maybe they're thinking of a situation or something that maybe they're walking through, whether work, business, life, whatever. But what's maybe one word that comes? Shannon says, I love light and breezy as well. Was an word for me too. Her word is powerful, recognizing how strong we are. I love that. So many great things. So what, as the ladies walk through this, what would you like them to feel? What would you like them to get out of this exercise?
So for me, it's very much an invitation into, and it's infinite possibility, your infinite potential, which is I am more than enough, and then infinite possibility, I am meant for more. I really would love, and I think that is, we need more talented, kick-ass, badass women to step up and step out and really own themselves, own the stage, own their message, share their message. So I'm just so passionate, and I love your movement and the women that we're inspiring, that you're inspiring, that we're all inspiring, because I just think that there's power in numbers, and I think it's time that we all come together and we stand shoulder to shoulder.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And I want to give a shout out to Debbie Prediger. She has brought her ladies from the Shine Circle and the Be Extraordinary Women's Network and gathered them. And we have a special edition of the Brave magazine. So we'll put the link in the important links in the comments and descriptions. But it's coming together of communities. Like you said, there's power in numbers. So just think of this ripple effect of women stepping up, sharing their experiences, their wisdom, and their resources to help us walk through life, ladies. This is like this is what I love about the magazine and what you have provided here. It's a little 10-minute little moment for yourself. Yes. To reflect, to capture that thought that's running wild in your head, like you said, observing it. And what were the other steps? Assert and redirect. Just those little things that we can think about, and as you write it down and repeat it to yourself, create your little memo to yourself of your 3 words. What a beautiful way to walk through a day. I just love it.
And I think, also, I think, one of my very, very favorite lessons that I've learned in the very, very early days when I stepped away from my corporate role and into entrepreneurship was really, and this was my coach, my health coach at the time. She said, prioritize you on your list of priorities. So it really starts with us. You say 10 minutes, but let's be honest, when do we give ourselves 10 minutes to ourselves?
Yeah.
So I just want to call this out, and also putting a little bit of tough love out to the community, because we're so good at prioritizing everybody else and all the little to-dos on our to-do list. But what if we start prioritizing ourselves? Prioritize me on my list of priorities, because then you're going to spend that 10 minutes. And it really starts with you giving yourself permission. Nobody else is going to come and save you, is going to come and give you that permission. And I really think that's the responsibility that we all, the accountability that we all, like radical responsibility that we must all take. Because I've learned, in this whole process, that if I'm performing at my best, my team does, my kids do, my husband is, everybody thrives around me if I'm thriving. But if I'm not, everybody is just literally surviving. And so there's a big, as women and our role in society, we have such a responsibility towards ourselves and towards others to look after ourselves, to prioritize ourselves on our list of priorities. So I just want to really, really reiterate that.
Yeah. And that is one thing I think I will be going back to listen to, because you said some really important things there. One, making ourselves a priority. I love that word, because that's not a word we always use. But as you look at your life, what are you prioritizing? You know, so often we're prioritizing everyone else, you know, all these other things, because, you know, we love to help, we love to serve, all these beautiful things. But we don't always use that word, priority.
You don't, yeah.
And so we put ourselves below rather than as an equal with other things in life.
Yeah.
You know, and to take that time for ourselves and taking responsibility, you know, for making ourselves a priority. And then you also said giving ourselves permission. Nobody's going to come save us. I sometimes do think I'm waiting for my white knight to come through the door, you know, and make all these tough decisions, or, you know, carry the weight, or whatever that looks like. Yet here it is. Here we are, you know, and taking that responsibility 100% for ourselves. So, yeah, big things coming. You know, as we step, but as you have these tools, doesn't it makes it feel like, oh, hey, you know what? I could make myself a priority. I am giving myself permission to give myself 10 minutes to walk through something like this, because it's a mind shift. And then you walk away with that peace, or that light and breezy. How beautiful is that, Marilise? That's just lovely.
And I think it's important that it becomes a daily routine, you know. I mean, it doesn't need to be more than 10 minutes, but there's also beauty in that consistency, because, you know, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And I think the discipline and the responsibility really comes from committing to yourself, and recognizing that it is going to get hard sometimes. You know, there are many days that, you know, I genuinely, like, you know, you just have to accept that there's peaks and troughs. There's going to be good days, there's going to be not so good days, and that's just part of the process. But if you stay with it, and if you consistently do it, it just becomes a habit, and it becomes second nature, and then it becomes easy. You know, it's not easy until it's easy. And it's really about consistency. So I'd sort of add to the words, because I think consistency, the rarest human quality is really consistency as well.
Yes. So
late experience.
Yes, I know it is hard. Consistency is difficult. So I'm going to put this little challenge out to our listeners. So we have now, as we are recording, we have 4 issues of the Brave magazine. Each issue has about 10 to 12 little, some are even less than 10-minute little exercises, like Marilise has done. Go flip through there, find one each morning, just something for yourself. Grab your coffee, your tea, you know, give yourself permission to spend just a little bit of time on you. And because it also feels like you've got a girlfriend with you sitting there, because she's walking you through this little exercise. And one of them is a conversation with a friend. One is a habit stacker, so how to do that consistency and add something each day. So there's all these little fun little things. And some of the ladies have also offered a little link to schedule a time to walk through the little exercise if you want to explain it, to explain your situation in that little resource that they give. So ladies, know that you are not alone. That's what I want you to know. You are not alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. Marilise is right there. You know, she's you know, in this beautiful community of Shine, and where they're lifting women up and doing all these beautiful things and connecting. Marilise, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. This is definitely one I'm going to be re-listening to and walking back through. So any parting words as we close off?
I mean, it's so important, I think, that we, you know, we really have grace with ourselves, you know, and I think for me at this particular moment in time, it is so prevalent. You know, I sort of, I was reading my manuscript earlier, and I literally had tears in my eyes, because it's like I just couldn't believe And it's a combination of emotional and tired and all these beautiful things, you know, but it is really the grace with ourselves, you know, having grace. And I mean, it's genuinely me saying it to myself first. We're all in this together. And I love just to leave you with this absolute reassurance that you are not alone. And I think that for me is what I always come back to when I have this beautiful community and I can tap into this beautiful, you know, energy of this amazing community. And that for me is something that I always come back to. You are not alone.
You are not alone, ladies. Give yourself a hug, and then you switch your arms the other way, because then it feels like a girlfriend's giving you a hug. So we love you. And this was such a fun conversation, Marilise, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks, Karen. I really loved it. Take care.
You too.